Welcome. My name is Kelly.
I'm Kate.
And I'm Laura.
And this is Fanimated, an animation fan podcast where we get a chance to geek out about our favorite animated media. And today, that is Pixar's newest film, Luca.
Yay!
I am super excited to be talking about this new film, recently released on Disney Plus exclusive. And man, I just had such a fun time watching this. What's your guys' first initial reaction to this film?
I think that fun is a really great word for it. This was kind of unique for me in that it was good, but for a Pixar film to just be good was sort of interesting. You know, usually it's like, I'm going to cry, I'm going to be slapped across the face with graphics I've never seen before. And this was just there was nothing new with the storyline. There was, nothing super surprising. It was just a really entertaining, fun, family animated movie that I enjoyed watching with my family. And it was great.
Yeah, I think it was such a fun little summer movie. It's just, I think you're kind of right with that, Laura. I think we're so used to oh, it's a Pixar movie, I'm gonna get ready to cry and feel so many emotions. And this was just really nice and light. And it was kind of, it felt a little bit nostalgic. It just made you think about summers as a kid and, the stuff that you would get up to with your friends when you had all the time in the world. And I loved the setting of the film. I thought the kind of coastal Italian setting was just a really it was a different tone for the movie, but it really kind of, I'm trying to think of a better word than fun, but it created just kind of that fun, adventurous environment.
Absolutely. It's fun. It's the summer fun movie. And yes, I can't wait to even go deeper into comparing it to Pixar films, because that's a good point that you make, Laura, too, that it definitely doesn't feel like other Pixar films. It doesn't. But for those who don't know, spoiler alert for Luca, because I'm about to just explain the synopsis real quick, and then we'll just get into it. Luca is a charming little story, like we said, off the coast of Italy. There's a society of sea monsters that live in the water, and Luca is a fish shepherd who has big dreams, but is told that he cannot go to the surface. That's not allowed. And he meets another sea monster, Alberto, and he lives on the surface. And so he kind of drags Luca out. And when they're on the surface, they look human. And whenever they're wet on the surface, they'll turn back into their sea monster form. And so they have this little adventure going to the human town and trying to find a way to get a Vespa. And because a Vespa is equal to freedom in their eyes. And they meet Julia, and they all three try to win a race so that they can get a Vespa and be free. Of course, lots of other challenges arise about that. But it's very fun, lighthearted, and ultimately a pretty simple film. But like you were saying, Laura, I loved that. It was definitely not as deep, emotional, let's dig into some big human psyche thing that Pixar normally does. It felt like it fit in at Disney, honestly, is what it felt like.
I definitely felt this way watching this movie and noticing some of the little even the Easter eggs that they had hidden in the film. I think that to me, I feel like they knew that going in. This movie reminded me a lot of Pinocchio. I feel like if Pinocchio and the Little Mermaid had a baby and then Pixar adopted the baby, that's what Luca is.
I love that.
And just even some of the little Easter eggs that they had, some of the movie posters that you'd see in town of like Roman Holiday and a lot of the like films that were either Italian films or films set in Italy in the 50s. I think that they weren't trying to do anything special or unique with the story. You know, I think that there's a lot of it's a little bit of like there's Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn feels to it. There's Little Mermaid feels to it. There's a lot of different storylines going on, and all of them seem just a little underdeveloped in the way that you know, I think that entertainment that's made for families kind of can be sometimes. A lot of times stories, this wasn't based on a book, but I think of like Pinocchio, that all of his adventures get condensed into very topical little storylines that each could be their own movie within their own right. But I kind of like that. I like that it was simple, that it jumped along. I thought that it was just wildly entertaining. And I would use, honestly, the word nostalgic for this movie. Like, for how beautiful the animation was, they also didn't do anything particularly groundbreaking in terms of, I have definitely never seen that before in their animation. The styling of their characters was not particularly groundbreaking. It just felt like a very nostalgic, fun little summer watch that I just sat down, didn't have to pay too close attention to it, which is kind of nice sometimes. Isn't it nice to sit down and just enjoy a film and not be like, uh-oh, I missed that one Easter egg and now I don't know what's happening. It was just cheerful and fun, and but at the same time, it has all those details that makes Pixar movies, right? I keep using the word Easter egg, but like, oh my God, there's the beach ball, right? The red, white, and blue and yellow beach ball was on the roof. There was a poster for Disney's 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea, or 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, on the wall. There's also just those little pieces of like when they first sit down to eat dinner in the village, the meal that or I think it's Massimo puts on the table, Julia's dad. I can tell where they are in Italy because I leaned over to Kate and I'm like, well, they're in the Cinque Terre region because I ate that in Cinque Terre and it's a signature dish of the Cinque Terre region of Italy. Like, it's the pesto and the potatoes and the beans. So there's the, you know, that attention to detail that Pixar has, that it was just a fun juxtaposition. And I feel like it's kind of refreshing to have Pixar say, like, we can still be exceptional and not have to blow your minds every time. Like, we're just so exceptional that we just make movies that you expect now. They're still phenomenal.
Yeah, like they might make some really fancy, crazy, coffee drinks at Starbucks, but once in a while, you just need a good cup of coffee. And this was just a really good cup of coffee. It just fit like a little part inside of my soul that was just like, I needed this. Like, it wasn't anything crazy, it wasn't anything sad. It wasn't anything.
It was like watching a movie like a kid again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. As an adult, you're like, your mind is blown in an adult way. And a lot of times when, especially this group of three, when we talk about movies, and we tend to talk a lot about the technical aspects of things and the way that things look, because, Kate and I tend to be more like, we're not as big of like animation story people as you. We love that technical aspect of things because we're kind of that like theater technical people. But watching this, it was kind of like, this reminds me of watching animated stuff when I was little, that I just liked it. It didn't have to be groundbreaking and like, look at the Huns coming over, I'm overwhelmed. It was like, I loved it the way that I loved movies when I was a little kid. And that, like, how cool was that?
And I think for me, like, watching this, the things that kind of going back to what you were saying, Laura, like, the story is just so simple. And I think that's really reflected. I mean, because there's not a whole lot of like twists and turns or like extreme plot points that you have to pay really close attention to. That I think for me, the thing that really shines, and we'll probably talk about this more in depth later, but I think the thing that really shines for me is the relationships between the characters. I think that is really kind of the strong focal point of this movie. It's the friendship between Luca and Alberto. It's the relationship between Luca and his family, and just like those kind of letting the characters and their relationships take the center stage in this movie. Just, you know, it does harken back to a time where things were a little simpler and we didn't have to, you know, put our thinking caps on when we were going to the movies, kind of the way that we have to do now when you've got 25 movies in a franchise and you have to remember what happened, you know, 13 movies ago.
I think just kind of one final note for me on the why I liked the simplicity of this. It reminded me of a point that we made about The Little Mermaid the last time that we talked, in that the simpler a story is and the more basic the message is, the more people that it resonates with. You know, it's fun to watch movies that are specifically for a group of people or tell a specific, like a really specific idea, but sometimes that can isolate people and sometimes it makes you kind of miss the core part of the story. Like for me, I loved what was it? Onward, Outward. What was that?
Yeah, Onward was
Onward,
one of Pixar's recent ones. Yeah.
That was one that we watched kind of at the beginning of the pandemic. And it was like, this was good, but this movie is about brothers and I'm not a boy and I don't have a brother-father relationship. And I like, why wasn't one of these characters a girl? It would have meant more to me, because it was such a specific story, right? About a very specific experience. And this, because it was so broad, just like we said with The Little Mermaid, this story can resonate with anyone who has ever felt like an outsider, which is literally every human being on earth, right?
Yes.
And that's one of it was a little bit like, oh, this is kind of basic for Pixar, but also like, but then it's about everyone. And that's nice. Everyone is Luca, right? That's great.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Like it reaches quite a broad audience. And ultimately, like, you know, after I finished watching it, I was like, yeah, that was really simple. Nothing surprised me. I wasn't shocked by anything, but like, this was probably my favorite Pixar film that I've seen since like Toy Story 4. I loved this film so much, even with its simplicity. It was so calming and comforting. It was comforting. And I like what you said about it's nostalgic. It feels nostalgic, even though I'd never seen it before, because it fits into, you know, how things that we would have seen as kids. And it just is like, just like comfy, cozy Disney movie, except it's Pixar.
Kelly, I'm sorry. You liked Toy Story 4?
Yes, I did. Thank you. I liked it a lot, actually.
Okay.
Like probably more than I liked Toy Story 3. Don't
No,
hurt me.
Kelly, no.
Laura's giving me a face like I am dead to her.
Toy Story 4 does not exist in my personal canon. Thank you very much.
Oh,
I'm sorry
wow.
to you Fanimated friends who like Toy Story 4. I did not quite enjoy it that much.
I've never seen Toy Story 4.
It's not worth it.
Because Toy Story 3 just made me feel like my childhood was over and it was time to go die in a cave. So
but it tied everything up in a beautiful bow, and I think Toy Story 4 was just like really hurriedly unwrapped that bow and like left it in a big messy pile. And I was like, you know what?
But
no.
To get back to Luca, it was kind of nice to watch a Pixar movie that didn't have me like rocking in the corner like somebody loves me, everything must be like, it was kind of nice to not want to cry in the corner.
Yeah, that's true.
A Pixar movie.
Absolutely. I would agree. Like there are definitely some really sentimental, like beautiful moments, but nothing that is like the signature Pixar a cry existential crisis kind of thing. Oh man,
because the characters act like kids. They're kids and they act like kids and do kid things, which is kind of that nostalgic feeling too. I love when a kid character doesn't act like an adult and have adult feelings and experiences.
Mm-hmm.
These kids and these characters acted like kids, and I really, really liked that. I really liked that a lot.
Yes, Yes. So let's get into the characters. Okay, let's just start with our main trio, like starting with the title of the film, Luca, precious baby boy must protect.
So sweet. Yeah, just such a sweet character.
So sweet. He is a big dreamer, but is like, follows the rules, doesn't not want to go up to the surface because that's not allowed. And when he first is like brought up there, he immediately goes back in the water. And Alberto like helps him get out of his shell, and he ends up becoming extremely confident and just like go get him attitude. And it's just wonderful to see him develop over the course of the film.
I loved Luca too. I thought that he was a great main character. I'm going to use my little feminist lens because I have to once every recording. Um, I really liked that Luca's experience felt very non-gendered.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time in a long time, especially for Pixar, that I didn't feel like it was a gender-driven viewpoint experience. I feel like Luca could have been a boy or a girl, and nothing about what the character did, said, or acted would have changed. I found that really, really refreshing. He was just like, he was a child, right? He was a child that experienced something that I think, regardless of your gender or experience as a child, we all felt that way. I really loved him. I loved him overcoming his fears. I loved his relationships with everyone in his life. I liked his relationships with his friends. I loved his relationship with his parents. I mean, just the opening scene of him rounding up all the goatfish.
Adorable.
Which, fun fact, the reason it was goatfish, that it's actually designed to look like a type of goatfish that lives off the coast of Italy. Um, but like, he just was so sweet and so cute from the beginning. His character design is so simple but so effective. I loved that. I loved both his fishy form and his human form. I liked his hair. I mean, what else is there to say? He's so cute.
Yes, I love the character designs, all of them, especially the sea monster designs are so fascinating. Their hair is super cool. Like I just like stared at that all the time. But yeah, Luca is just presented in a way that you are rooting for him from the beginning. Like we as the audience want to see him succeed in anything he does, and we believe in him and want him to believe in himself, and it's just perfect.
I love the other characters also. I really liked Julia. I thought that she was kind of fun. I really liked that she felt like a little outsider and that she was going to stand up to the bully. I loved her relationship with her dad. Uh, I feel like she existed for a reason. A lot of times it's like, oh, here's the story of two boys and the girl that comes between them. Even if it's not a romantic story, that's like a trope that is used over and over and over. And I definitely, again, it's one of the reasons I think I really like this film is that the characters just felt very non-gendered and very generic and relatable to everyone that was watching. I did feel like I wish that I had a little bit more backstory for Julia. You get a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I will say about Julia, like, I love that, she is, similarly to Alberto, much more outgoing. But yet they aren't just both copies of the same like generic outgoing character, right? Because like first of all, Alberto just pretends to know what he's talking about, and Julia actually like goes to school and like is like, let's look at this book and like all this stuff, right? And that's part of it too. Why I love Alberto actually is just because he changes so much too, and like he has to be, he ultimately has to feel more comfortable with himself because he feels like he's just been left behind always. And I think like Alberto might be my favorite character because I wonder like why they decided, I know why they decided Luca is this main character because the director is basing it off of his own childhood and the director relates to Luca. But I feel like this story is just as much about Alberto. This movie could have been called Alberto.
Oh, for sure.
Because he has to, come to realize that not everyone's going to leave him behind. And I love this film because I'm just like, I'm sitting here thinking about like the end part where they're in the race and he, like is trying to help Luca, and they just like sacrifice each other, their identities for each other. And it's just like, oh, dang, they're so cute. Dang it.
I read online that Alberto is actually based on one of the writer director's friends growing up.
Yes.
And that relationship makes sense. He he felt like he was Luca, and that character was really based off of a good friend of his when he was little. I thought that was really cool. Can I tell you who my actual favorite character though?
Yes. Oh, please.
It's Machiavelli the cat.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
That cat was hilarious. I loved the cat. I thought the cat was used so well. I loved the combination of Massimo and Machiavelli, the dad and the cat together. I just thought the cat was so cute and so fun, and could have very easily been like, this is stupid, but like he was used so well and he was so funny. And his little mustache, like he looked like an Italian cat. And I'm like, how do you even make a cat look Italian? But they did.
And there were so many like subtle moments in the background where you would see the cat and the cat was still like glaring at them. Like, I know something's up. I know there's something different with you. And I just thought that like, if you weren't looking for it, you wouldn't see it. And those subtle moments were just so funny.
Yeah. I mean, how do you even start digging into all of these different characters? I think, funny enough, I was listening to a talk show radio program on the way in this morning, and like the old sort of stodgy, I think the world is awful type of host was talking about how he had watched the movie and he really, really liked it. And that one of the things that he brought up that he liked is he's like, everyone was in this movie, right? The dad was someone who was born with missing a limb, right? And he's like, that's just the way that, like, I felt like there was just, everyone was in this in like a super fun way. I loved the dad. I loved Luca's parents. I did feel like they were the most underdeveloped, and his like relationship with his parents was a huge stretch of like, I want to go to the service here. You have to go live with your uncle in the like deep sea. And it's like, this all seems like fast and underdeveloped for like why this is happening. But as soon as his parents got on land and started like throwing all of the kids into the water to try to figure out who was Luca, I'm like, I don't care what undeveloped storyline got us to the point where these two characters are throwing people in a fountain, but I am here for it because I love this sequence.
Agreed.
I agree with you, Laura. I think as the film went on and we saw more and more of the parents, I was like, oh yes, I do love these characters. They're great. And I think the thing for me was the fact that they flipped when in the beginning, when the mom says, I love you, and there's no response, when they flip that at the end, spoilers, when they flip that at the end with Luca saying that to his mom before he leaves. And it was just like, oh gosh, that's so sweet. That was the part that got me all teary.
Yes. I agree to all of this. Seriously, all of the parents in this film are amazing. And I mean, besides Alberto's dad, but we never see him, so it doesn't matter. But like the three parents that we get are all phenomenal, and I love them all so dearly. And yes, definitely, it's one of those underdeveloped, like not quite follow through things with Luca's parents. But they are so charming and so hilarious, and like, and none of the parents are like the bad guys. Like Luca might feel that way, like he's being like trapped, and that's the inciting incident to get him to go to the town. But like, it just like we were talking about with the Little Mermaid, right? Like the parent might do something that, it feels villain-ish, but then they immediately feel bad about it and are just like, I shouldn't have done that. And then Julia's dad is seriously the best. Like, he's just like, these two boys are just here okay, I will feed them, and okay, they can stay, and like, okay, I'm going to adopt one. Like, just so great. And especially when Alberto runs away and he's like, the kids are like, I don't think he wants to be found. And he's like, well, just in case. And he goes out looking for him. I'm like, that's so sweet. Dang it.
And I love that. I love, what's his name? Massimo. I love his character so much because I feel like they so easily could have just made him a caricature, and they so easily could have just made him like the, typical like tough single dad kind of vibe, and they could have used him more as like an antagonist or a foil towards Luca and Alberto. And I think I loved the way that he was like, oh, okay, I guess these are my daughter's friends now. And then the more he gets to know him, or the more he gets to know them, he grows fonder and fonder of these boys and is like, okay, I will protect them just the way that I protect my daughter. And I thought their development of his character was so sweet.
I will say it kind of goes back to what I said about the kids acting like kids. The adults act like adults in this movie. They act like adults. They don't have to explain themselves the same way that, like, you know what? Luca's parents don't need to explain why he's not allowed to go to the surface. He's a kid. And we're your parents, and we said don't go to the surface, it's dangerous, and yes. I feel like Massimo's the same way, where it's like, oh, I don't think he wants to be found. He's like, I need to go look for the kid. I'm just gonna go look, and I really, as an adult, appreciate that. So often you get like the kids are smarter than the parents are funny, therefore they're stupid. None of the funny adults are stupid in this movie. The adults are smart adults, and the kids are growing kids, and they both have, the adults have adult experiences, the kids have kid experiences. Every single one of them is worthy, and really, like, I just think that was smart writing, and it was refreshing to watch as an adult, to watch a movie where kids are kids and adults are adults.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It was so refreshing in that aspect. And so off, like, it could have been so easy, like you said, Kate, to turn the parents into even more of villains or antagonists. And they weren't. Like, there was a bully who was the antagonist, who is a kid. And like, even he wasn't, as antagonistic as a lot of animated villains that we see. And you felt, but you felt it from the kids' perspective. You felt it from Luca and Alberto's and Julia's perspective, that he is, whatever Julia says, reign of injustice and injustice will fall, or whatever. Like, you felt that, how serious it was, because like, we've all felt that way and had people treat us that way. And so we could relate. It was almost like, we were all just getting down into their minds and into their minds of kids. They weren't dealing with major life issues. They were dealing with major kid issues. And it's like, that's just as important from their perspective. And we were able to like get into their little window, and it was so refreshing.
Is it Urkula? Is that how you say his name? He is just such a great character. He just rides that like borderline of being annoying and funny so perfectly, and you just love to hate him because he is almost, the way that the parents are not caricatures, he is almost too caricature-y, and it's so delicious and so funny, and you love to hate him, and it's great.
Absolutely. Love it.
Ercole was really, it's Ercole, I think. Ercole was really funny. I even loved his character, right? That kid on the cusp of becoming a teenager who still kind of acts like and hangs out with kids. And he's got like, she makes the little like icky mustache joke about him. He was he was so funny. Some of the other smaller characters, like the grandma, Luca's grandma, she was hilarious. She had like 4 lines in the entire thing, and she was super funny. The actress who voiced her, I recognized her right away because she plays grandma in Napoleon Dynamite. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Napoleon Dynamite. it's
Yeah,
Napoleon's
yeah.
grandma that he lives with. I knew that
Oh
voice right
man.
away. I was like, oh my God. And she's like, she is this character, right? It was like, oh my gosh. Yeah, just loved the trio, loved all the supporting people, loved it.
Awesome, awesome. The last thing I wanted to talk about with characters, at least character relationships, is, and this is not how I interpreted the film because I really love stories about platonic friendships. But a lot of people interpret Luca and Alberto as gay. And I honestly, like, thinking about it, like now that that has been pointed out to me, like it makes total sense actually, and I totally think that that interpretation is relevant and valid, especially that like it's an, you know, just like we were talking about, it's a very universal theme of like not fitting in, and like for them it's very much like coming out as sea monsters, or however you'd interpret that, and you know there definitely is a strong relationship between them. So I'm just wondering what you guys thought about that.
I also have I upon watching it, I feel like I did kind of interpret it that way, or at least it was kind of you know, it was sort of an allegory for the coming out process for queer people, and I think more of a broader idea, just like coming to terms with identity and who you are as a person. And I think obviously, you know, whether no matter what sexuality you identify with or who you identify as, I think that's a story that everyone can relate to.
I would say I definitely can see that interpretation of it as well. Kelly, I'm in the same boat as you. I think that that speaks to, we talked a little bit about this during Little Mermaid too, that like it's a story that definitely can be that LGBTQ interpretive story, but it's told in such a way that it feels very universal, which I think is actually like a really strong message for something that has an LGBTQ leaning theme to it. There was definitely that little part at the end when the two old ladies become, you know, it's like, oh, we've been sea monsters this whole time, that I definitely felt like also is that kind of homage to the like,
Yes.
you know, those two old ladies who are like best friends and have lived together for their entire lives, you know, they're
And I think the other really um the thing about it being, you're right, Laura, the thing about it being a little more subtle, it's kind of open to interpretation. You can interpret it whatever way you want. But I think I did kind of after we watched the movie, I was kind of reading some stuff online, and just I think there was some article that kind of pointed out like what a beautiful, you know, whether whatever you identify with or as, or like, but what a beautiful thing for, you know, a young kid who's kind of starting to go through that journey of, you know, what is my identity, and what, you know, what am I searching for, and who am I really underneath. What a beautiful thing for that kid to watch this movie and see a bit of that journey and a bit of that struggle in there. You know, the way that a lot of us were raised with like Disney princess movies or movies with, you know, heteronormative couples. Like, what a beautiful thing for a little kid to watch this movie and go, oh, I think I see a little bit of myself in there, a way that I haven't before. I just think that's really cool and really sweet. And like I said, you can kind of interpret however you want. You know, we all clearly interpreted it in different ways, but I think, you know, that through line in that message of identity and accepting yourself for who you are, I think is really ultimately what, um, you know, is great about this movie.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And again, this is all coming from three straight white women. So that clearly defines our perspectives for sure. But it does make me wonder, like, it really wouldn't have taken much tweaking to make it very, very like affirmative in LGBTQ plus representation. And especially for this film not to be released theatrically, makes it kind of a bummer that it's not, like, even though from the director's viewpoint, like that was not the intention to have a gay relationship, but like Disney Disney just and true with most Western studios, like they're just really afraid to be representing in that way, especially for theatrical releases, because then you're not going to get revenue from certain countries because they're going to block it. And from it just I'm just like, come on, guys. Like, I'm waiting for that good Western animated LGBTQ plus representation movie. We've started to see it in television series, but I have really yet to see it in a film. And I don't, I love Luca. I love this, but also, like, we do need something that's very point blank. This is a queer couple represented in an animated film.
I appreciated that there wasn't any romantic leaning towards anything in this movie because it was about little kids and friendship. That is absolutely, I mean, sexuality, who you are as a person, is something, that you explore your entire life. But I did appreciate that I appreciated that there wasn't any romance whatsoever involved, and that it was just about friendship. Thinking, Kate, like you said, growing up with Disney princesses, where it's all about love and falling in love and getting married and finding a prince and he shall kiss you. It was like, no, this is about kids being friends and finding people who are like you. And that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with romance. That just has to do with relationships with other human beings. And so that other side of the coin, I absolutely agree with you that I think that I'm waiting for that representation in film, but I appreciate that this decided to say, this isn't a movie where we idealize any type of romance whatsoever. This is a movie about friendship. It's not about brothers. It's not about sisters. It's not about romance. It's not about couples. It's about friends and family. And I really, really liked that a lot.
For sure. So, out of all of the beautiful, fun, enchanting, charming moments in this film, what are your guys' favorites?
I have like a sentimental message favorite, and then I have like a stupid movies are funny favorite. So I already mentioned it before. The stupid movies are favorite, like funny favorite, is when Luca's parents come on to shore and they're like, I'll know who my son is, and they cannot figure out who it is, and they just keep finding every way possible to like dunk children in water to try to figure out who Luca is. And like the mom, like they're throwing everyone in the fountain and they're like, oh, the volunteers here, give water to each child as they pass, like, oh, okay. And they're like ready to start throwing I just thought that was such a funny, I loved that moment for the parents. I thought that was such a funny little fun moment, and that, yeah, it was animated really well and that it was cute. In terms of like message in the story, was the Silencio Bruno moment, silencing the doubts in your head and silencing your fears and being brave and doing things that you're afraid of. And I just loved it. Was like, well, in my head, his name's Bruno. He can be whoever you want in your head. Silencio Bruno. And just every time he would do something, he would say that to himself. And I'm like, that's a practice that I can do in my daily life, to literally say like Silencio Bruno to myself every time I have a negative thought, every time like fear gets in the way of doing something that I want to do. I just thought that, this was similar to the underdeveloped storylines that we talked about, and kind of, not lots of backstories. I think that this was a movie with lots and lots of messages in it, and it got a little muddy and it was hard to really concentrate on one. But that was the one for me that really I thought was super special and really stuck with me every time he would say that. That's something that I wish that I had been told as a little kid, and that I had told myself to Silencio Bruno when I was a little kid. And I need to still say it to myself as an adult.
One of my favorite moments in the film, for me, I really enjoyed when Julia kind of pops up in the film. I really loved that dynamic of the trio, and I just really loved the scene where it's just Luca and Julia kind of talking about books and astronomy when they're in her bedroom, and the little sequence where they're like kind of dancing on Jupiter. I just thought that was so sweet and animated so well. And that was one moment that really stood out to me. And I loved the race in the end. That was really exciting. I love the way that it built. And I love, how that kind of leads to the ultimate reveal at the end. So those were kind of my favorite bits in the movie.
Yeah, I would agree that the ending race sequence, all of that, was just like, oh, so good, so precious. I would say too, one of my favorite scenes is just like the introduction to Alberto, and just like, especially when Luca finally like comes out and like Alberto shows him around where he's been living and stuff, and he's just so like, of course I know everything about like the surface, and like, here's this thing, and oh, that plays the opera music, but it's broken, and then Luca just like randomly fixes it. And I love it's so relatable that Luca is just like, okay, I really need to go 40 minutes later, okay, but I'm gonna go now an hour like that is me.
What are they living in Minnesota? Are they doing a Minnesota goodbye? Because that was really relatable for me.
Oh yes. Oh my goodness. It's so great. So great.
I feel like it's so hard because there were so many characters and so many stories and so much going on. I feel like it's hard to pick a favorite moment or like a favorite thing that you even noticed, like something as I was sitting here thinking about like, oh, what's something that I really liked when that would happen. Why Ercole and his two minions always have a giant sandwich, I'm not sure, but like I love that was a choice that was made for those characters. Like he's like this person, and then he makes his friends slap each other. He's like, no, slap him, no, but that one of them just for some reason is always like at the ready with a giant sandwich. I think the reason I like that is that I wish that one of my friends was always at the ready with a giant sandwich for me.
Is that a hint, Laura?
Yes, Kate, I feel like you need to start carrying a giant Italian sandwich at all times. So just like, yeah, it would just keep going. All this stuff with the cat, I don't know. Everyone had their own little thing that it's like, I love that moment. I love that. This movie was just a collection of loosely tied together, really cute moments.
That's very accurate. Because even thinking like all the little tiny details, it's just like how to actually eat noodles, like twirl it on a fork, like that sort of thing. And like all these tiny little things that like they never necessarily always pay off, but like they still present some really fun little moments, not everything ties together. But it's all so charming. That's the thing. It's just, it was so charming and so like joy filling that like I can forgive it for being pretty simple. Like every moment was enjoyable. And there was never a moment while I was watching that I was like, this is boring in any way. Like, to be honest, like with Soul and with Onward, there were those moments where I was like, how much longer do I have? But not with this one. I fully was just immersed the whole time.
I just think this movie is a really good example. I throw the word family entertainment around a lot on this podcast. I worry that sometimes that comes off as me saying like family entertainment a lot of times gets like thrown into the bucket of children's, like it's for children, which is very different because there is stuff that is made for children that is like pulling teeth for adults to watch. That is child entertainment. The Teletubbies is for children. That is child entertainment. It's not for adults. Family entertainment is a very unique genre in that it is something that can be enjoyed across all age groups. I think that Pixar, with a lot of their most recent films, have made adult movies that are animated, and they try to pepper in things that kids will like to make it family. I'm using air quotes. Now it's family because we've thrown in traditional entertaining for child elements into an adult story. That's where, like you said, Kelly, is this over? It gets boring. And I think one of the reasons it gets boring is because I went into this expecting a certain style of storytelling, which is family entertainment storytelling, which has a specific type of pacing. It has a specific type of theme. And a lot of really, really good animated media from these studios, if it's good, it really does fall in that perfect sort of balance of what true family entertainment is. It doesn't lean too far towards children's entertainment or too far towards adults entertainment. And I really found it to be really refreshing that this movie sort of refound that center space for Pixar. Pixar has always aired on the side of adult with kid themes, and kid elements to make it so that kids will like it. And I was so pleasantly surprised to have Pixar say, you know what, we're really good at family entertainment. We're really good at it too. Like we can make these other really adult things and really feel your feels things, but we're really good at family movies too.
Yeah, I love that. And I agree. It was a true, in every sense of the word, family friendly film and enjoyable for everyone. And so I just can't recommend this movie enough.
Okay, Kelly, are you ready for Laura's fun and random facts that she assembled just for Kelly?
Yes, I can't wait. Give them to me.
Okay. Luca had 3,436 individual scales on his body.
What? That's crazy.
When I say individual, they were individual, and this actually came from the inspiration for the style of the sea creatures, why they were so unique. They used medieval Italian sculpture and painting of sea creatures to inspire the design of everyone, from like Renaissance, medieval, all these different eras of like sea creature lore sculpture in Italy. And they wanted all of the scales and all of the creatures to be very unique and imperfect, just like the art that inspired them was, that, that sort of hand detail of, what a sculpture would be, reflected in the way that they were animated, which I thought was super cool. Yeah, it was fun to go through. You can be a nerd like me and go online and look at some of the pictures they took of the inspiration art from coastal towns in Italy. Oh, another fun little fact, and this is it. My last one. This is my favorite one. The audio of the background of the children playing in the background of the film are actual audio clips of Italian children playing in squares in Italy. They went to Italy and captured actual children at play for the background audio, which I thought was really sweet and like a really, really unique little touch.
That's like such a sweet tribute to that. Oh my gosh, I love that.
Another fun little tidbit is that most of the film was produced at crew members' houses because of the pandemic. So it's probably, one of the full-on like at-home work experiences, even more so than Soul which was also heavily done at animators' homes. And I always think that's fascinating because look at this beautiful, gorgeous film that everyone made at home.
I really like, because I always think about the actors, right? Most of the voice actors, all of the voice actors recorded at home, except for the actor who played Luca. He got to record in a studio. But I thought that it was really cute. They use actual child actors to voice the children, which is pretty unique these days.
Yeah.
But the boy who played Alberto talked about how weird it was to get hired for a job, and his mother set him up in her bedroom closet, and he recorded the entire film in his mother's bedroom closet.
That's crazy. And I love that.
I thought that was so funny. It's that was like the apparently most people, they were like, it works really well if you go in a closet in your home. And so most of this movie was recorded by the voice actors sitting in coat closets in their home talking into a computer.
That's really funny.
That's great. That's
super cute.
It's like, wow, it turned out great.
I know. It's like, well, how come we can't even figure out how to record the podcast to sound good here? And it's like, somehow they recorded the entire thing in the closet at home. You think we can figure out how to not have like echoing happening on our podcast?
Well, I don't think the Disney Studios is letting them record over Zoom like we are. Oh, what? And then we had mentioned it before, but just again, Enrico Casarona is the director, and this story is inspired by his own childhood and his friendship with his friend, feeling that Alberto Luca connection. And he feels that he had a friend that really helped him get out of his shell. And so that was really special. And you can definitely tell when things are inspired by an artist's own experience, because it really shines and has a lot of heart to it, I think. And well done to everyone who worked on this film. It's beautiful, absolutely enjoyable. Can't wait to rewatch it. I'm really gonna treasure this one for sure. Go watch Luca if you have Disney Plus. If you don't have Disney Plus, just pay the month fee to watch Luca. It's worth it. And thank you guys so much for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
So much fun.
News update. The rest of the summer, Fanimated will be at a bi-weekly schedule. So every other week, every other Tuesday, new episode. That's just for the months of July and August, while I take a little extra breathing space. And to get things set up and raring to go for September, where we'll have our anniversary celebration. Got lots of things planned, and I'm excited to share them with you guys. So I'll be chatting with you guys in 2 weeks with Bryn about the Mitchells versus the Machines. So watch that on Netflix if you haven't already. And in the meantime, stay tuned.
And stay animated!
Oh my God. Kelly, can I tell you that your face froze like this? And so I thought you were just like really into what I was telling you.
Oh no.
It was funny.
Oh no, that's hilarious.
I was really proud of myself. I'm like, oh my God, she's so into these.
So into it.